What a wild week in the markets. And because it's Friday, means it's time to go over some weekly charts. As always, make sure you go to statsedgetrading.com and sign up for the email list. I'm working on some cool stuff every single day that I think you guys will really like. So, I'm going to go to email subscribers first. Again, make sure you are signed up there. We are going to go over crypto. We're going to go over stocks. We're going to try to figure out what happened this week, what we could potentially see going into the next week. So without further ado, let's pop into it. As always, starting with Bitcoin. Big rally up here this week. I am long some of the cryptocurrency stocks, Coinbase and Mara, selling as things go, especially into the weekend because I have that hold risk not knowing what's going to happen over the weekend. But I can't be buying Bitcoin right here because we're up two giant weeks in a row, broke out of this base right here. Nothing for me to do. But what I'm watching is these highs right here. If we fail to reach these highs and we roll over before then that's interesting to me. That's data where we couldn't retake those old highs because that's what everyone's expecting to happen is that we break these old highs right here. And there's really nothing to say that we're not going to come and break these highs at all. We're in a massive uptrend. We've been in a massive uptrend for a long period of time, consolidation and then a breakout. So it all looks good to me, but I just didn't get involved in the actual cryptocurrency. I got involved in some of these stocks. So for me, I'm just sitting on my hand and there's nothing that I can do. Going into gold right here, where we have a nice anchored VWAP pinch. I just wanted to point out this bottoming tail that happened in gold. So we sold under this anchored VWAP and we sold under this prior low. It really looked like we were breaking down. If we actually go into the daily chart, you can see it really looked like we were breaking down here on Wednesday, and then we just rallied up into the close. So, you know, it's a great looking chart, but we're still stuck in a range. So if it looks like we're going to start to see some continuation going out here tomorrow, then I'm going to get involved if I can find a setup on a shorter term time frame. This is why, for anyone who's new to the channel, welcome. But this is why I do these weekly wrap ups, is that I spend the end of the week, which you're seeing right now, getting my thesis down and writing notes that I have over here for, I'm interested in this long and this short and correlations that I see and all that. And then I am prepped to go into next week and say, okay, this is what I actually want to trade. Now that I know that, maybe gold, this bottoming tail, may be suckered in some shorts and it's time to get involved in gold. Doesn't mean I'm just going to go out Monday and buy it, but I know I'm biased to the long side. So now I can start to look for my setup. Again, doesn't mean I'll place a trade at all. I need to see that setup occur first. If we go into Euro, we take a look at the Euro here. Kind of the same look. I got to zoom in right here because these candles are really hard to see. They're called Dragonfly Dojis. So you had an opening price, you sold way down, you came right back up to that opening price, and you held, which means that every single person that got short into the Euro this week, it felt like they were a genius for a second, and then it closed absolutely flat. That's also lining up with the anchored VWAP from this lows. So it's fighting a lot of support here. Same thing, if we start to see a lift in the Euro, I want to be getting involved in that. Speaking of the Euro, we have Euro Pound. And this has a big low right in through here where it keeps bouncing and hitting that low, bouncing off a little bit here as well. So I am currently long some Euro Pound, but I'm going to look to see if I can add if we can get a bounce off that next week. Some Aussie pairs I want to take a look at before we go into stocks. Aussie yen, this continues to look strong. I've been wondering if this is a giant topping pattern we're seeing here or if we're just consolidating for a breakout. To me, it's looking like it could be consolidating for a breakout now. I think the only thing you could do is kind of draw a trend line like this. And if that trend line breaks down, maybe you take a shot short to see if it fills this little zone right here. But there's no reason for me to be short this because if this is going to break out and continue higher, it may actually be a good breakout trade. So I'm going to watch Aussie yen next week, see if I can get a pullback to an area that's interesting. And last but not least, in the currency space, we have CAD dollar. And the reason I like this one is because we are right back down into, we'll just call it this zone of support, kind of in this area right here. We're hanging out in that zone, and that gives us an area to play off of where we bounce that and then we fail. And for anyone who's followed me any length of time, if I'm going to take these bottoming plays, I want to look to see if we come down and hit an anchored VWAP or something like that and then bounce through there. We're a little bit below that, so if we come up to this and fail, we could move lower. If we break through that anchored VWAP, I think that's where I'd be looking to take a shot. Now, into the SPY, we are going to do a weekly chart, and we're going to start from here. So when I said a wild week, you can kind of see it if you zoom in on the weekly chart. A big push down. This was that CPI gap down. We can go into a daily chart real quick. So we had a big gap down into that gap down from the CPI. We rallied back up. We almost looked like we were going to break out highs today, and then we failed. So this zone that I drew this out when I was making another presentation this week, talked a bit about on the Wednesday report. So make sure, again, you're signed up for the email list and you're subscribed and all of that, because that's how you're going to get, make sure that you get all of this stuff when I send it out. I think that this zone right here might be a problem for us for a bit. If we go to the weekly chart, you can see that, yes, we are extended. It doesn't mean we can't get more extended. Overbought doesn't really mean anything. But we are up very much since this October lows, an absolute rocket ship of a market. So it wouldn't surprise me if we consolidate and we back and fill for a period of time. This month is, generally speaking, a weak month, so it could make sense that this would be the time to do it. Excuse me. Again, I try to get these out quickly for you guys, so not too much editing going on. But yeah, we try to make sure that if we're going to consolidate, it makes sense that we're going to do it this month. And it makes sense we're going to do it after this massive leg higher. Again, I'm not going to take a bet that we're going to fall apart, but some consolidation or sideways chop definitely makes sense to me as something that could occur. If we go down the cap scale a little bit, let's actually do MDY first. And you can see a little bit more strength on MDY, which is good. That's what we want to see. MDY is our mid caps. S&P is our giant companies. MDY is our smaller companies. And then if we go to IWM, then IWM, you can see a little bit of strength as well. So maybe we are catching up on those names. Maybe that's kind of what we'd like to see. If we're going to end up taking a trade in through here, if we're going to be bullish in the market for the long run, we want to see this push higher in MDY, which is our mid caps, and IWM, which is our small caps, having these catch up with the overall market. Going into a couple other names that I was interested in when I was doing my scanning is KWeb. So KWeb perked up a little bit. Dealing with this low right here, we can also look at FXI. These are both just China names. Dealing with this low right here, and then perked up a little bit. So could be a time to maybe take a shot. I gotta get out of the way here a little bit. Could be a time to maybe take a shot here on a lot of these different China names. If I can find something that's strong, like a TAL or a EDU. These names are a little bit stronger than the overall Chinese market. That might be a place to take a shot there. USO, I've been kind of pounding the table a little bit on USO. I like it as long as it can hold this zone right here. You can see a very strong week this week as it broke out. Always on the bottom here, we have in trade ideas a picture-in-picture chart, right? And you can use Stats Edge for 15% off. You want to give trade ideas a shot. I highly recommend it. This gives me a really good long-term picture of what's going on. And on this monthly chart, you can see we're consolidating nicely, just like you can see on the weekly chart. But when I notice strength on the weekly chart, I notice consolidation on the monthly chart, then I know there's a chance that we're going to get a pop and a break of that. And when it just looks like one of the strongest sectors out there that hasn't done anything parabolic and insane like a lot of the semis and everything like that. I'm looking for rotation from those strong names into some of these names that have been weaker, but look like they're poking their head out a little bit. Speaking of, XME is another one here. Let me just draw in this line that I was looking at right through here. So these prior highs right here are very important. It broke out of that. It came back to it, tested it exactly, and now it looks like it's going to start to move higher. Metals and mining includes steel and uranium and copper, as well as gold and silver. So a lot of different names pointing towards a potential push in XME. I love plays like this because it's a very simple play. I'll get long maybe next week if I can find some stocks in that market that look interesting to me, and then I'm out if this low breaks right here. It, anything that makes my life very simple like that makes everything awesome. So now let's get into some individual names. And for that, we're going to go over here to the daily chart, but I still like leaving the monthly chart up here for my overall thesis on what's going on in the market. And a couple of them I wanted to talk about. A lot of these are going to be post earnings names. And if you've seen me at all when I've been on Trader TV, I've been talking about these the last few weeks because I really do like the look of them. Where this setup for me, and I'm a systematic trader, I'm a setup trader. That's why I have stats edge trading, because I think there's an edge in just having a system and then working on that and applying that over time. This particular system is looking for a big gap up after earnings, sideways consolidation for a period of time, and then a breakout for continuation. The idea being it takes a few days, maybe a few weeks for a lot of the quant nerds to get caught up on the earnings. And then when we push out after that, then that just creates this really strong and great move that potentially I can play as a technical trader who doesn't understand the earnings and the fundamentals, but I can ride the coattails of a lot of the institutions that do. So XPO, you can see up here around 121 bucks. It's got a potential double high going on here, so I need to see that broken. FAST, same type of move where, 70, 71 bucks, give or take. You can see that this breakout could occur. We have this triangle right here. Again, these are all just potential setups. Doesn't mean I'll end up taking any of them, but a couple of more of them. One is HCA. This is a healthcare stock getting very, very tight. Again, this yellow line always represents the earnings date. Big gap up on earnings. Very tight consolidation after that. Let's take a look at MPC for the same type of move. Big move on earnings, sideways consolidation, looking for some continuation there as well. Last but not least, was it XR? No, it was SXC. Bad day today on SXC, which is an iron steel mining, whatever that word is, manufacturing. Again, getting tight after a nice earnings bounce and earnings continuation. So if this can break to the upside, I like the look of that. We have all the fundamental data up here as well, but very nice look on this XSC. So thank you guys for coming by. I appreciate it very much for everyone who watches. I read the comments, the likes, the shares, all of that is super, super awesome. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate all of that. I will talk to you guys next week. And until then, get away from the screens.